Bitcoin down around 18% from its swing high a couple weeks ago. Is this just the beginning to continue downtrend? More pain on the charts to come? Or is this just a short-term dip in a continued long-term uptrend into this next bull market? Let's jump into the video because I feel like this is still an urgent matter. So I want to dig into these charts. I want to dig into the short-term targets we pretty much exactly hit. And I want to look at the macro because there are some very important things to lay the groundwork. Once again, here is a clip from yesterday's video. Our target of this head and shoulders that we've been talking about is down in the $99.50 to $10,000 range. So that was literally yesterday. Quick clip, $10,800 or so when we were doing that video. And you can see Bitcoin almost perfectly hit this target to the $9,900 to $10,000 area. It's a head and shoulders target. Before we start digging into that 6-hour chart though, what I want to look at is a couple things. This is zoomed in on the daily, but this is the move for Bitcoin, right around 18% or so to the downside. And what I did was, and I just want to show this to you because it's very important. I basically went back and I just highlighted some key looking dips, right? So here's one 19%, here's a 10% dip, here's a 16% dip, and I just kind of just did this. So let's zoom out, and this is back in last summer, 16% dip on the way up, 25% dip on the way up. We have 11%, 10%. Here's kind of the bottom of the bear market, 11, 13. But more importantly, what I want to do is I want to go back here. This is basically the time frame coming out of the last bear markets, very similar to what has recently happened for Bitcoin. Similar time frame, 40% dip, Bitcoin getting ready to enter the next bull market coming out of the last bear market, 22% dip, 29% dip, 29% dip. We are getting ready to enter the bull market here. It's 2017, 32% dip, 28% dip. Do you get my point? 26%, 31%, 25%. Do you get my point, everybody? These dips happen. We talked about even when we get into this next bull market, they're going to continue to happen. The best thing we can do is prepare for it, is to hold on tight and really track it daily to see if we get the bounces that we need. Because obviously back then, people were, I'm sure, freaking out right here. 30% dip, July 2016. That's actually the last Bitcoin halving. Right here, January 2016, not knowing what was actually getting ready to happen. So we have to put it all into perspective as we look at these charts, and we really do have to zoom out and see historically what Bitcoin has done. So question is there a case for a bullish continuation now that all of this has happened? A couple of things that stick out to me on this daily chart. A couple of things. A rising channel trend line that we're testing pretty much right now, and a weekly close above 10,500. So the rising channel trend line, rising wedge right here started back in May or so. We have this first touch to the bottom trend line. Currently, Bitcoin has made its way back down to the lower trend line, and we're really testing this area. I mean, this goes right around to $9,800, and we pretty much wicked down to that area yesterday, just about, right? So we're currently on this rising channel, putting in a higher low right here. And Bitcoin in upward moving environments does tend to put in rising channels, and we break out of rising channels. That's a bullish case for Bitcoin. We can go back to the last bull market, Bitcoin putting in very similar type looking patterns. The other thing is the weekly close above 10,500, probably the biggest thing that I'm watching right now. This is the daily chart, but you know that we have the $10,500 area. That is the neckline of this inverse head and shoulders we've been talking about. We got to break above the neckline. We talked about coming back down to test it. Now, since this is a macro type of pattern, and I'll just switch to the weekly so we can see it a little bit better. Since it's a macro type of pattern, what we're looking for is a macro type of close, right? We're looking at a weekly candle close. Where is this weekly candle going to close on this neckline? Above 10,500 or below? Currently, we're at 10,220, so we're only a few $100s away from that $10,500 area, and it is the biggest area that I think we can watch in the next couple days as Bitcoin gets ready to put in a weekly close. So that's probably the biggest thing on these charts that I'm watching for, because this is kind of a macro indicator, but we're able to watch it in the next 48 hours or so, a little bit longer than 48 hours. So we're going to get this closed at the end of this week. I'd be really curious to see where Bitcoin closes in that $10,500 range. Now, we talked about bullish continuation. That would be a case for bullish continuation, right? We get a close above 10,500. We bounce off of this lower trend line. We get momentum back to the upside. We could be testing $13,000 in the next 5 days to 10 days, right? This could be a case for Bitcoin. Now, a case for downtrend. This is what we don't want to happen. At least if you're not a bear, if you're a bull, a long-term bull like me, this is not what you want to happen, a downtrend. So here's the case for a downtrend. You can see swing high, bull market high, last summer swing high, and now we are putting in a swing high here, and we're breaking this upper trend line of this long-term type of symmetrical triangle that we have on the screen. This could be a lower high on this chart. That is a case for continued downtrend. I've mentioned it before. Could we revisit this lower trend line, $7,000 area? 100%, everybody. I don't talk about it all the time because that's not something that's fun to do videos on, but I always lay out the potential that it could happen. This could be a multi-month bear trend coming back down to this area. Bull market could still be far away. And at the end of the day, we always know that this is a risky game. These, like Bitcoin, crypto, this is a risky game, everybody. So there's no guarantee any of this happens. Bitcoin could just plummet. Do I think that'll happen? I don't, but we always lay the case out for that scenario. So the one interesting thing on this chart that I did want to point out is this. Usually when we're charting this, we're taking these wicks of these weekly closes, and that's kind of how we're charting this upper trend line, right? If you remove that, right, and you just put the candles where they open and close, no wicks, we have a different story. And this is interesting. This could be a bullish case in kind of a short-term bearish case, meaning if Bitcoin continues to downside. Because on this one, Bitcoin has actually put in a higher high from this lower high from this 2017 swing high, right? So we've broken above and we've actually closed above that area already. So right now, Bitcoin kind of has this upper trend line with an upward slope. And I'm not trying to reach and be too bullish here, but I really want to put that out there for perspective because it's on the charts, right? If we remove those wicks, it's on the charts. So we could be coming back down, testing the 50-week moving average potentially right here, $8,800. And the case could be Bitcoin puts in a higher low from this swing low in March, and we bounce off of that area and we put in another higher high, right? So we have a swing high, we have a higher high, and then we have another higher high somewhere up there. That's another bullish case for Bitcoin. But again, maybe I'm reaching a little too far, but it is what it is. I removed the wicks and that's what the chart looks like. I wanted to throw it out there for you. Now let's dig into the charts because this is what has happened. This is what has transpired in Bitcoin. We've gotten our head and shoulders. Here's the left shoulder. Here's the head. Here's the right shoulder. I didn't draw that very perfectly, but you get the drift. We've hit our targets that we talked about yesterday, $9,900 to $10,000, right in the $9,950 range. Now the question is, what next? Simply put, when we break out of trend lines, when we break out of targets, or when we break out of patterns and hit targets, we look for pullbacks to that pattern, to the trend line that it broke out of. So in the short term, at the very least, and I'm not saying this is necessarily bullish, it would just be very commonplace for Bitcoin, we may see Bitcoin cruise back up and test this neckline, right? And if you remember perfectly, this neckline was actually right here around 11,140, I believe it was. So could Bitcoin get back up there, test 11,140? 100%, it could happen very quickly. A move like that would only be like not even a 10% move for Bitcoin. There's altcoins that have already bounced that much, if not more. So that's kind of what I'm looking at in the short term. Want to see how this plays out. If we zoom out here on the 6-hour chart, you can get an idea of that longer term inverse head and shoulders neckline. And I'll just place it right here around 10,500 just so we can get a clear idea of it. you can see Bitcoin currently testing that neckline right now. It's the main thing, again, that I'm watching on these charts. I'm sure there's a lot of other things happening on the 6-hour chart. This is the biggest thing. How does Bitcoin interact with 10,500? Can we break above it? Even if we don't get a pullback to the neckline of this head and shoulders that we broke out of 11,140, can Bitcoin break above 10,500 and stay above it? That's the shortest term thing I'm looking for right now. I wanted to cover this comment as I end this video. Important comment. Somebody said today, it's a long comment, but they said, you focus on these short-term things when they suit your position and always have a backup comment to justify something. And I want to tell everybody, especially if you're new here on this channel, he's actually partly right. You know, the tone in which he said it, maybe not the nicest, but on these charts, I'm pretty much always right, because this isn't a moon channel. This isn't a bearish channel. This YouTube channel is basically laying out the data, giving you every scenario possible. So no matter what does happen, at the end of the day, we were right? And there's no talent involved other than analysis, taking the time to analyze the data and look at targets so that we can accumulate more in the dips and we can enjoy the gains in the long run. But if you're new here, I want to tell you that that's what you can expect to get on this YouTube channel. 100% transparency, honesty, and yes, I guess you can say I'm always right on these charts simply because I'm giving you downside targets and I'm giving you upside targets. And at the end of the day, I do that so that you can make your own decision in real time what you want to do with your portfolio so that you can anticipate every scenario. I always say on this channel, expect nothing, anticipate everything, because you will be the most comfortable in that type of position. You most likely will not spend more money than you can afford to lose. And simply put, you're just going to be ready. You'll be ready for the dips. You'll be ready for the gains. So that's what you can expect on this channel. If you're here and you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button. I'm flying through this video today. I'm trying to eat. I haven't eaten yet. It's time to get some breakfast. I appreciate you cruising by. Let's see how this thing plays out. Hit the like button on the way out. I appreciate you. Have a good day, and God bless.